This podcast is a presentation of UCTV.tv, University of California Television. Like what you learn? Help others discover UCTV podcasts by leaving a comment or rating in iTunes.
Good morning. On behalf of the Institute of the Americas, it's my sincere pleasure to welcome you to today's special presentation by Mexico's Economy Secretary, Tatiana Cloutier, being organized as part of the Institute's Hemisphere in Transition webinar series. As we kick off this morning's presentation, I want to thank the sponsor of our webinar series, the Burnham Foundation, and in particular, its founder, Malin Burnham. I also want to thank the University of California Television for partnering with the Institute on our series. Secretary Cloutier's presentation today comes at a pivotal time as she leads Mexican President López Obrador's efforts towards economic recovery amidst the current challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, the United States is Mexico's most important trading and investment partner. In the case of the United States, we trade more goods with Mexico than any other country. In 2019, two-way goods trade between our two countries exceeded $677 billion. At the same time, Mexico and the United States are not without their trade differences, as is the case on issues related to energy reform and genetically modified corn. So there's a lot to talk about, and I'm looking forward to a rich and timely presentation by Secretary Cloutier, as well as our discussion to follow. At this time, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce my co-moderator, Ambassador Jeffrey Davidow. Ambassador Davidow is currently the senior counselor with the Washington, D.C.-based global business consulting firm of the Cohen Group. Ambassador Davidow is the former president and CEO of the Institute of the Americas, leading our organization for over 5 years, following his 34-year career as in the Foreign Service. During his career in government, Ambassador Davidow served as the Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemispheric Affairs, as well as the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Venezuela, and Zambia. Ambassador Davidow is the author of the book, U.S. and Mexico, The Bear and the Porcupine, a bestseller in Mexico. At this time, it's my great pleasure to introduce Ambassador Davidow. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Richard. It's a great honor for me to be here with my old friends at the Institute of the Americas. And it's a great honor for me to have the opportunity to introduce our guest of honor, Secretary Tatiana Cloutier. The Secretary has a long history and tradition in Mexican academia and politics. She's a graduate of the Autonomous University of Nuevo León, did additional studies at the International Institute of Technological Studies in Monterrey. She has participated as both a student and a lecturer and a panelist at Harvard, Berkeley, London School of Economics. She has been a firm supporter of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, including coordinator and campaign manager for his successful bid for the presidency, and she now serves as Secretary of Economy. Madam Secretary, welcome. We're very pleased to have you join us this morning. Thank you.
I presented on the 19th of January, I presented a program as to work on the recovery of economics in Mexico. And first of all, we decided we were going to be working on 4 strategic points. But we have, first of all, the development plan, the National Development Plan of President López Obrador, which is based firstly on 3 main points, which has to do with innovation, diversification, and inclusion. And President López Obrador has been working on this and trying to pull the target as for all of us in the government to point out on these 3 points. When we're talking about diversification in the sense of economics, we're talking about finding new markets and not only having the markets that traditionally were being considered as especially Canada and the United States, because we have a lot of markets in those places. On the other hand, when we're talking about innovation, obviously we're talking about the great, the world is looking and is facing the greatest advantage when we're talking about innovation, and especially with all the internet. We were not able to be talking at this moment if innovation would not be on the source long time ago. So we believe that we have to work not only in Mexico but worldwide in innovation a lot, put a lot of effort on that, put a lot of money also on that, and especially on the area that has to do with health, because the pandemic has shown us that we need to do a lot on this sense. And then when we're talking about inclusion, in inclusion, we're talking about President Lopez Obrador has been working since long ago on how to give a hand to those ones in our country that were being left behind, and that people that have been left behind. We have a lot of population that needs to be included, but not only that, we also are talking about indigenous people, and with the pandemic, we're having a major, we're facing another target, which has to do with women. Women have been left behind again in this, or with this pandemic, not only in Mexico, but also on the market. And we have to do a lot of working together as for re-skilling those women in the use of technology and also in new areas of development, so they can be re-included and not left behind. As Cepal said it, in Latin America, it's happening. So with that in mind, we all this supported in what we're talking about, the sustainability, and we believe that not only pandemic, but also the world has shown us the need to look and find a new ways to doing business. And when I'm talking about the new ways to doing business, I'm talking about the need to have or to think about the green business, talking about the circular economy. And those are like fundamentals that we need to be considering while working on the strategics for the growth of the economics worldwide and obviously in our country. So then we have these four strategic points. The one has to do with the internal market. We're talking about the industrial policy in technology and development. And on that one, we're talking about how to have Mexico or our government supporting buying Mexican, but not only buying things done in Mexico, but having in all the exportation products more local or more, I'm going to talk America, thinking about the USMCA, talking about American content. If we are able to increase the American content of the products we export, we will be improving our economy very easy. Well, not very easily, but we're going to be improving it pretty much. And on that one, we assume that if we have supply chains working all together and relocating enterprises that would like to take advantage of the TEMEC, we have a great advantage on that. Then on the next one, increase the added value locally. That was one of the points that I just addressed. And then on the third one, welfare productive industrial parks. This one is something we've been working with the private industry, and we're thinking about doing 5 or 3 of these welfare productive industrial parks that have with it not only the business part, but also the social part of it. What are we talking about over here is that we have places for kids to be taken care of, so the parents can be working with not thinking, what are my kids, or not thinking, what am I going to be doing? And also taking care of adults, because we have found that women are the ones, at least in our country, in Latin America, the ones that have been in charge for a long time of taking care of kids, but also taking care of parents. And that doesn't allow them to be working freely and be working without having the worry of where are their parents or where are their kids. Then we have the promoting the supply chains locally and based suppliers. And that's the point that I'm talking about. How can we be working on relocating enterprises and also finding a new way of having the supply chains being worked more locally and not finding products some other ways. And the other one is encouraging industry competitiveness and technology upgrading. And this is one of the main things we are focusing at this moment, and that has to do with working with a small business, so the small business can change very fast. We already done this in a sense, in using or reconverting or training even small businesses as to change to the technological upgrading and the use of e-commerce. And then we have the financial support for small and medium-sized enterprises. Over here on this last one, we have been working a lot, especially with the small and medium enterprises in training, not only, as I said, on e-commerce and digital, but also we have trained them on some accounting and financial steps. And we have also been doing some work as for them to get together with some other small businesses and do associations as to face the challenges that we are doing with the pandemic. On the next one, we have investment promotion, and we here have the simplified administrative and procedures and requirements. We have found and work with international associations and international institutes, where we have seen that one of the major challenges we have is to simplify our procedures. If we are able to lower down the number of requirements that any business has as to open or as to continue doing the exportation and all the processes, we will be able also to make the business and the import and export procedures easier for everyone. So we're working on this one with the OCDE. We're working with CAF and some other institutes and using technology as to make all the procedures easier. We know that's a big challenge, but we are working not only with the federal government, but also with the state governments and with the local governments, because this is one of the issues that is demanded mostly. On the other hand, we're working on having a one window reception. So especially for the business that come from the outside, have an easy way to finding solutions and not have to be knocking on all the doors. On the other hand, we have improvement conditions for national investment and foreign direct investment. And as we said, we're working with the state governments and with our government as to let them know what are the things we can offer to the international investment, but also taking advantage of the position that we have at this moment with the TEMEC, with the United States being our biggest neighbor, and also the market that we have with the United States and with Canada. On the other hand, we have the coordination and cooperation between the government enterprises and investment funds. And we're working over here a lot with infrastructure. I have over here 3 projects that we can talk about pretty strongly and that are located on the southern part of Mexico. Over here, I will be talking mainly, one of the promises of President López Obrador was to pay a debt that we have had for a long time on the southern part of the country, especially with 9 states. And over here, we're building 2 main projects. You may know the Tren Maya. The Tren Maya has or is it's going to be changing a lot the southern part of Mexico. Also, we have the project of the Istmo. The project of the Istmo, it's a train that connects the Pacific with the Gulf of Mexico. And that one is going to be finished by the end of this year. So after around or next to the project of the Istmo, there are 10 points of development that we're working on, and especially with infrastructure. And we have another one, what we call Plan Oaxaca. Plan Oaxaca has 22 projects around these 9 states on infrastructure, and those ones are like the main focus where we are putting investment for the international and local funds, and also from the governments. And we believe that this is going to be like a lot of support for developing and for making a lot of progress in that area that has been left on, and also having communication, and especially for transporting and exporting to new areas of the United States, especially the parts of Miami and the states that we have there. Most of the exportation that we have done at this moment, even though we have the main exportation products to the United States, they are located in 6 or 7 states. We need to address, when we were talking about diversification, we need to address new areas, but also new products to be exporting, and we're working on that. And we believe that the Istmo project that we are just gonna finish is gonna allow us to be making new markets in the eastern part of the United States, but also to Europe and other parts of the world. And then we're talking about encouraging North Americans regional economic cooperation. And that is, we, as you know, with the TEMEC, we have a lot of interchange of import and exports, but also we need to make a stronger relation, especially with the problems we face at this moment with the pandemic. And we have seen that we have shortcuts in some products. So we need to address this, especially in all the vehicle industry and in the health industry. On the next one, when we're talking about international commerce, we have first the increase of Mexico international commerce. As I was saying, we need to face not only looking at the United States, but looking and making a stronger relations. We have at this moment 13 treaties with the rest of the world, with 50 countries. Then we want and we are working on making those commerce stronger, and also renewing the ones that need to be renewed. We were just addressing one with England. And then the other one has to do with protects Mexico's interest in the international trade agreements. As you have known, especially being in the United States, you know that some of our products of the agricultural area have faced a difficulty with some of the producers of the United States. So as the United States protects and works on their protecting their own industry, we have to do the same with our products. This year, we increased the exportation of the agricultural products in 6.6%. And we believe, and we are sure we can do even more on that. And in that sense, we need to protect those products that the United States believes that affects their producers, which we believe does not have anything to do with that. On the other hand, as I said, we're celebrating new trade agreements. And on the other hand, we're talking about implementing Mexico trade agreements and meet the obligations. We are, since we have new obligations with the TEMEC, we are training, especially in the areas of new compromises that we acquire. We are training our people here in our country. For example, one of the main things we're doing on this training has to do with all the labor reform. The labor reform, it is not only something that we agree because we had an agreement on the international trade with the United States and Canada, but that was something that President López Obrador has believed, and he did it even before we came into a new agreement. And these new changes in the labor reform have to be known for all the enterprises, with all the labor community, and we're doing a lot of training on that, not only with the business and the labor community, but also on the labor offices we have, because we're changing also the way we are addressing that internally on the federal government. The last point we have over here has to do with the regional, the development regional economies and local industry. We have something that we call COFINESES. The COFINESES is a group that we form in all the regions of our country, where we have businessmen mainly that understand what is happening in the region, what are the problems they're facing, but not only as a region, but also as a business. For example, we have worked a lot with the shoe industry, with the textile industry, and we have seen what is hurting them, and focusing on the things that they are facing and the problems they're facing. We're finding very local solutions as for them to keep on moving. But on the same way, we are working, and again, I go to the southern part of Mexico, as I was telling you. We have a program for development the southern part of our country, with not only the Plan Oaxaca that had 36 projects, but also we have 200 more projects that are very well addressed and focused on these 9 states that I talked to you about before. Then we're talking about the boost strategic industry and job creation. And over here, what we're talking about is looking for all those industries that are strategic and that not only help us create new jobs, but also help us create jobs that have a great impact and a better pay, because we not only want people to have a job, we believe that we need better jobs and better paid jobs. So we're talking a bit over here about aerospatial industry. We're talking about more developed vehicle industry. And we're talking about also a lot of research in the health industry, where we see a lot of potential. As I can tell you at this moment, actually yesterday, President López Obrador and the group designated to research presented already that we are working on a vaccine, a Mexican vaccine, if we can call it on that way. And not only that, but we're also working with all other countries in doing research as for the vaccine and other solutions for health issues in our country. And when I was talking also about the future industry, as I said, we're talking aerospatial, we're talking about the health, and even seeing a new future in a new way to doing traditional tourism, changing to a new way to address it, and talking even about medical tourism. What we are doing at this moment, since I came in, we are seeing, we opened conversations with the industries that were not being heard maybe before, and we have had already 153 reunions with industry. We have talked with the embassies to see what are the new ways that we can address new relations and cooperation as to improve the business and to improve the cooperation between the nations in the areas that they have more potentials. Those are the things that I will be leaving on the table at this moment as what we have for the recovery actions that we have planned on the economy. And I will prefer that we open the table, ask for you to ask questions, which is always the best ways to have a better relation and not only have somebody talk on a one-way position.
Madam Secretary, thank you very much. You've outlined a very expansive agenda, and we all wish you luck and
Thank you.
And success. There are many questions that our viewers have sent in to us, and they largely deal with the interpretation of the TMEC. That is what I prefer to call the second NAFTA. First, one of the important elements specifically in Canada and the United States was the new emphasis on green programs, green energy. Could you talk about what your government is doing in that regard? It is obvious that steps by the government have limited or will further limited green energy in Mexico. And how do you foresee dealing with the green issues? And in that regard, the question of green energy, of course, is tied in with the question of electricity and hydrocarbon reform. TMEC does have provisions which prohibit the preferential treatment of state-owned enterprises, which in Mexico's case would be, of course, Pemex and the CFE. So there is a connection between green issues, electricity reform, the treatment of foreign investors in the energy field. And we could talk about these separately, but since we have you, I'd like you to give us your view about foreign investment in energy, foreign direct investment in energy, the future of green energy, and this question of potential difficulties and conflicts within the TMEC construct in relation to the primacy and preference for state-owned enterprises. That's a long question, and I apologize, but please.
No, I ask you to get two more questions, and we'll go with the three of them together. If that helps you. Okay.
Let's talk about the question of the conflicts in agriculture between the United States and Mexico. We have already seen some this year. This is not a new problem. There's many of us have lived through let's call them the tomato wars and other such things. How do you see your relationship with the USTR and the United States in more generally in terms of resolving agricultural conflicts? And a final question is, Mexico seems to be moving against the importation of genetically modified maize, corn. And this is a major export from the United States and a major element involved in the production of food in Mexico. So all of those things taken together, let me stop there and hand the platform back to you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the green energy. We're talking about the green energy. First of all, President López Obrador has, with the Tren Maya, that I believe it is one of the projects that, if I would have known that we were interested in that, it would be very interesting to have a whole presentation from the Tren Maya in the Istmo. El Tren Maya has a 50%, 49% of have 49% of electrical energy. They have 10 camps of with panels for producing the electricity. I think this is something that not a lot of people know, and they believe that we're just stepping behind on that side. And that's one of the ways Mexico is achieving the promise they have had in the green energy that we are working on. On the other hand, the same project, Del Tren Maya, has been working and is going to be working with communities where we have the self-production for 0.5 megas, where it is not the production has not to do with profit, but it is like auto-consumption in the communities. So those are areas where we are achieving the promises that we have on moving on with the green energy. When we're talking about the electricity and with Pemex, we have a reform at this moment with the electricity. And as you know, that TEMEC or President Lopez Obrador, when they signed with the United States and Canada, the TEMEC, he left out the area related to electricity. And also CENER, which is the Secretary of Energy, is the one responsible for my word came out. It's the one in charge of the rules and the one in charge of moving the agenda in Pemex and electricity. What have we said to the people that are seeing this as something going against the USTR? I tell you that some of them have already moved on legally, and we have in Mexico something that is called amparo, and they have already moved on that way. So what we tell the people is the electricity reform, it is in a way in a legal standby, we can say that, and the CENER is the one in charge of all this policy. So I cannot really tell you a lot more on that one. If you want to go deeper on that, I surely will be happy to do a meeting or do a reunion with people from the CFE, from Pemex, as for you to go deeper on the side. On the green one, on the green energy, I tell you already what we're doing on Tren Maya. And also, we have worked in small farms, in green farms and circular economy as to keep on moving with the small businesses on this area. When we're talking about the agriculture, when we're talking, we have some other projects that I think they already move on over here with some of them. I don't know if you can help me. Maybe we can put this on the presentation, because we have already some projects that work as to have the first green island in Mexico that is going to have solar energy. And in Cozumel and also Islas Marias has a project that has a lot to do with the solar energy. We also have in Tulum another project that has to do working with photovoltaica, como digo? Well, with photovoltaica solar energy. And so those are things that we have had already moving on with the green energy. If I move on with the agricultural relation with USTR, I tell you that we have great relationships with them. We know that being partners and being neighbors has always the goods and bads. We're gonna be neighbors forever. We both understand that. And I think that this relation goes even farther than just thinking about tomatoes or not tomatoes. As with neighbors, I think it is more mainly like, how can I say that? I always see this relationship, and I have even make fun with some of the persons we talk all the time. It's like being married, with the only difference that over here you cannot walk away. Not Mexico, neither the United States can walk away in this relationship. So we understand that. What are the problems we have been facing or we have on the table at this moment? We have one with cucumbers. We have one with bell pepper. We have had already one with berries. The berry was solved already. And I believe, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to solve pretty easily the one with the cucumbers with the bell pepper too. Why? Because I think those problems were raised on a moment on a political election. And when we have an election on the table, I think all the groups move, and even the people that are running for a position or not try to move and make a lot of noise around something that it is not necessarily well supported. I believe that these noises move on in one side of the border, that would be in Mexico, and they move the same way on the United States. I'm the daughter of an agricultural from Sinaloa. He grew tomatoes, he grew bell pepper, and he grew cucumbers 30 years back. And I remember since then all the time talking about what was happening in Miami with the tomato. So I understand these are things that happen all the time, and we always have find a solution. So I don't see any problem in finding a solutions, understanding that there are some times when you win, there are some times when you stay on the standby, and there are some times when you lose. And I see this relationship in moving, in playing chess. Sometimes you move the queen, and sometimes you have to let the other side make the move of the queen. On the other hand, we also have faced not only on the agricultural area, but we also face problems with the shrimp at this moment. And I believe this has something to do with on finding better ways of catching shrimp, being more into the respect of protecting the turtle, and we are moving on that. So this relationship helps us move on in finding better ways to address situations in protection the environment. And I think we have the same thing when you were talking about it. I'm going to move on the corn and the OMG productos genéticamente modificados. MGOs products, because it has to go the other way around. For example, on the corn, what we have, what President López Obrador has said, he signed a statement where we work in two directions. He said that we are not going to be buying we're not going to be importing the corn for human consumption if it comes from the MGO's product, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be buying the corn and for animal consumption. And I think that this is the part of the moving and addressing. When are we talking about green? When are we talking about moving, taking care of the environment? We believe that we have to take care of the environment, but we have to take care of the human beings too. And that's the moving on when I'm saying you playing chess. We have to play chess. We have to see what hurts you, what hurts us, and where do we find a better solution for both countries, understanding that we have things that hurts us, you have things that hurt the United States, and we have things that help, that have to move on in finding a way to move on with both countries when we have to give and take in one situation or another one. That's the way that we see the agricultural relationship, and we believe that sometimes, as I said, you win, sometimes we win, and sometimes we both win.
Thank you. You have a tremendously big agenda. Let me raise one specific issue that was very, very important last year at the beginning of the COVID close down. And you referred to this in your presentation. And that relates to supply chains. What we discovered in the first months of the COVID close down, that the supply chains were interrupted and that there was no mutually agreed position between Mexico and the United States on the question of what is essential industry. The U.S. had its list, Mexico had its list. There was a lot of confusion. It was a new problem in that sense. And hopefully we will never face it again. But are you working with the U.S. government and other governments on a regularization of supply chain mechanisms? I think it was a very important historical period in which people on both sides of the border realized just how important the supply chain is and how vulnerable it is. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes. Do you want to give me another question, or do you want me to address that one alone?
I'll give you another question, but I don't want to talk too much. I think the basic question that I run into when dealing with American business is, and I'd like to ask you whether you're seeing this as well, the actions of the Mexican government in relation to energy, the electricity reform bill, the new hydrocarbon reform bill, seem to be creating in sectors of the American economy beyond the energy sector doubts about the advisability of investing in Mexico, in that it appears that the rules may change halfway through the game. Would you comment on that? And what assurances can you provide to foreign investors as they think about direct investment?
Obviously, I think that's when we saw how important it is, that relationship between our countries. And if I'm thinking about what President López Obrador and President Biden talk about in the last meeting they were talking about the supply chains, and not the supply chains, but at the end, the need to conform like blocks in if we're talking about international wise. No, we're thinking about America, we're thinking about maybe Asia, we're thinking about Europe. And in that sense, we cannot see each other separately. And if we're talking about supply chains, we have already talked with the people from the United States. We have had meetings already with all the people in charge of the different areas, from the USTR, from the economical minister. We have talked with everyone on a high level position, but we also already working on the technical areas as to not face the same problems we face. We face problems in different ways. First of all, the one of supply chains. And I think that we all learn the need to have an everyday talk as to find solutions in that way, and understanding that we have that TEMEC signed already. We move on fast, or as fast as we could, as to find out which ones were the essential business that were going to be able to be open. I think that we learned already, not only as a country, but as a region, how can we have to be working on which ones are going to be called essentials. We know already that we have a lot of products that are part of the supply chain of the main business in the United States. And for example, with one of microchips that we all are facing in America, the United States has been working and looking, and we already sent them yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, on a study that we did on microchips. We're working to finding solutions as for if anything happens again, that we hope we are already prepared in many other ways. We don't stop this moving on of supply chains. And we have worked on protocols. We have worked with the IMSS, el Instituto Mexicano del Seguro Social, the one in charge of not only health, but also supervising the security in the business. They have already protocols to see what you have to be doing instead of just closing, what you have to be doing and following and doing those protocols as for you to continue working, and what are the percentage of workers that you can have on a business, depending on what color of the difficulty of the pandemic is in the city where you are working on. On the other hand, we have also another situation that we learn as a country on when we have that problem in Texas on, I think it was on December or January. Okay, no, it was on January. The problem that we live in Texas, when we're talking about not only supply chains, but we were talking about gas. We learn as a country that we have to move on, and that will come and connect my answer to the second question you're raising. When we're talking about the energy sector, no, we have work and we talk almost every other week with the Embassy of the United States in Mexico, and we're looking for moving and bringing gas to the southern part of the country, but also to the states of Central America, to the countries of Central America, and bringing gas over there. The United States is willing to make investment there. The business of the United States are also, or some business in the United States are also interested in investing there. So nonetheless, we have at this moment reform going on the electricity sector. We have seen that the United States, the government itself, France and Germany, and even other countries are interested in investing in Mexico. And we are having, obviously, a way to support and making and having them the protection of their investments, for them not to believe or not to see that something can be happening to their investments. We have, as I said before at the beginning, we have already in Mexico, the amparo. We have some other ways to find solutions in case somebody believes they're having an unfair treatment in the way they are being treated in their investments. And I tell you that we have had a lot of talks with Pemex and CENER and the business as for them to finding solutions and to see what are the new ways to fund the investments all together. And in those ones, mainly, for example, what I'm seeing that they're working is CFE is having like the head, or is being in charge, and they're doing some, I don't know if I will call it partnerships in the investment, and those are the ways they're funding the solutions for the investments of those areas. But I tell you that there is a lot of interest in the United States, France, and if I'm not mistaken, it would be Germany, in investing on the southern part, especially in gas. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, thank you so much for your presentation and your and the response to the questions. The final question is, Mexico right now has a great opportunity for reshoring investment from Asia to North America. Some companies have already made those investments. What is Mexico doing to attract this investment?
We are talking with, every week, we're talking with some companies, especially the ones that we are interested in bringing them for the supply chains. Specifically, we're focusing pretty clearly on which ones are the products that we need to provide a whole supply chain. And we're talking specifically to the CEOs of those companies. We're having meetings almost every other day. And we're looking for them to talking about why is the reason, why are those reasons that they have as to be moving to our country, and we're giving them some facilities in different states as for them to move on to our country.
One final question that come is, given the ambitious plans that you've put forward, and given also the austerity challenges that Mexico faces, like other countries, How is Mexico planning to pay for some of these new initiatives?
Okay, first of all, one of the things that I was a congresswoman before, and we approved the budget. The Tren Maya budget has been taken care of. I don't see that there is any problem on the Tren Maya. It's been very well put on or separated the budget for that. And the social programs, what they're doing at this moment, it's we changed the law in a way that the Constitution actually on the Article 4, where it says that the social programs that are already by law, which has to do with the people over 68 years and older, and the kids with the special needs, which those are the ones mandatory, are going to be, those are the only ones that are mandatory. With the other ones, some of them are not mandatory. And what you keep on those social programs is if there is money there, you keep on moving and supporting those programs. But the money for the Tren Maya and the money for the Istmo, it's there.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. With this, I want to thank you, Madam Secretary, the Secretariat of Economy. I want to thank our sponsors, the Burnham Foundation. I want to thank also Ambassador Jeff Davidow for his moderation of this panel. And thank all of you as participants for taking part. So thank you all, and we look forward to having you participate in future Institute programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to a podcast by University of California Television. For more information about this program or UCTV, visit us online at uctv.tv.